Welcome to our lecture 3, where we're going to look at elasticity. To start with, when we're dealing with elasticity, we must understand the factors that affect demand. Now, the concept of elasticity is very important for every economist because it helps us understand how buyers and sellers react to changes in prices in relation to demand or in relation to quantity supplied. And so, to understand the concept of elasticity, we must define it first of all. So elasticity is simply the responsiveness of demand due to changes in one of the determinants of demand. Specifically, demand has a number of determinants. We have price, which makes up price elasticity of demand. We have income, which makes up what we call income elasticity of demand. We have advertising, which makes up elasticity of advertising, and prices of related goods like complementary goods as well as substitute goods. So we're going to look in this context the three types of elasticity. We have what we call price elasticity of demand or on price elasticity of demand. We also have what we call cross price elasticity of demand, and we have income elasticity of demand. Now, we have different types of goods that we must understand. So when we're dealing with types of goods, we have what we call a complementary good. We have what we call a substitute good. We have what we call inferior good. We have what we call a normal good. So a complementary good is simply a good that has a negative cross-price elasticity of demand. So by definition, when we're dealing with cross-price elasticity, we're looking at a good which is used with equal ease. And so there are goods that move hand in hand like car and fuel. These are complementary goods. So when we have an elasticity of demand which is negative, just know that is a complementary good. We also have what is called a substitute good. Who can tell me what a substitute good is and the elasticity of demand that is produced from a substitute good? What is a substitute good? Anyone?
I think it's a good that I think when there are two goods here, when one, I think the price is increased, people tend to go for the other. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay. If one good is expensive, people go for the other. Okay. What are the others saying?
Yeah, like an example of butter, maybe, and the jam.
Like butter and jam. Those are substitute goods. Okay. You're both right. But just to expand on what you've already explained, let me just expand it in economic terms. So in economics, these concepts are very important because economics looks at our day-to-day real-life situations. So there are various concepts that will help us explain the relationships in terms of demand. So when you're dealing with what we call a complementary good, like I explained, we are dealing with goods that are consumed together. Now, these goods that are consumed together are goods that will have a close relationship. One is useless without the other. So in terms of elasticity, the price of one complementary good, as it increases, the demand for both will decrease. So the price of fuel goes up, you demand less of fuel and less of cars. So these will give us what we call a cross-price elasticity, which is negative. So cross-price elasticity of demand for a complementary good is always negative or inverse. So we also have what we call a substitute good. These are goods which can be used one in place of the other. They're competing goods. So if the price of one substitute good goes up, the demand of the other substitute good will increase. So in terms of cross-price elasticity, we have a positive elasticity cross-price. Inferior goods have to do with income. So when dealing with income, we need to understand that in a normal situation, when your income goes up, you should demand more of a particular good. But the opposite happens for an inferior good. An inferior good is a good which has a negative income elasticity. Examples of inferior goods are second-hand clothes. We have black and white TV. So when your income goes up, you demand less of that good, not because you cannot afford it, but you can afford better. So any good that indicates a decrease in consumption due to increase in income is regarded as an inferior good. We also have a normal good. A normal good is simply a good which consumers will consume more of as income increases. So in terms of elasticity, we have a positive elasticity of income. However, when income elasticity is more than 1, we call that a luxurious good. When income is positive but less than 1, we call that a necessity of a normal good. However, sometimes goods could be independent of each other or have no relationship whatsoever. For instance, the increase in the price of a pen and the price of fuel, those are unrelated goods. So these ones are goods which have no direct impact on each other. There's no specificity in terms of the price increase in the demand in the other good. So these ones are called unrelated goods. So the elasticity is 0. And so in terms of computation, you need to understand. So let's go with what is called price elasticity of demand, which is also called on-price elasticity of demand. This is a peculiar kind of demand which has 3 particular stages. Of course, elasticity of demand is always negative because of the inverse relationship that exists between price and quantity demanded. So the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. But always elasticity of demand is what? Negative. But we can have elasticity of demand, which is inelastic when the value we get is less than 1. We have the value, which is called elastic, when it is more than 1. Then we also have what we call unit elastic, when it is what? Exactly 1. So this is how the elasticities move. So in this case, if we have the following elasticities, we have A, B, C, D, E, F. So in terms of elasticity, if we have -1, -1.1, -2, -0.5, -0.99, -9.99. So between A, B, and C, which one is elastic, unit elastic, and inelastic? So just tell me whether it's elastic or inelastic. A is what?
Unit elastic.
Unitary or unit elastic. B?
Elastic.
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 Okay. C?
Elastic.
Elastic. Okay. D?
Inelastic.
Elastic.
Elastic. Inelastic, what do the others say?
Elastic.
Okay. Is it more than 1 or less than 1? So this E is inelastic. D is inelastic. As long as starting with a 0, it is inelastic. Okay, and F is what? Elastic. So let's cut this argument for people who have a problem in understanding the interpretation of inelastic. As long as kuli number kuntash, it is elastic. If there's a 0 point anything, it is inelastic. If it's just 1, it is unit elastic. Are we together? Right. You'll also have what we call the advertising elasticity of demand. What does advertising elasticity of demand measure? So elasticity, we understand that advertising is one of the determinants of demand. So when you're looking at advertising elasticity, we are looking at the sensitivity of consumer demand or sales due to changes in advertising expenditure. So whenever you're looking at advertising elasticity, we're basically looking at how much quantity will be demanded or how much sales revenue will have due to changes in our advertising budget. So the elasticity of advertising can be calculated by dividing the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in sales or change in advertising. So it indicates how effective our advertising is. So it's very important to also analyze advertising elasticity because a high elasticity of advertising will suggest that consumers are very responsive to your advertising budget. In any case, an increase in advertising will lead to significant increases in sales. So if we have okay, so now we go to the computation of elasticity and understanding how we can explain the variables that we're going to get. So if you have an equation like 10 minus 5px plus 3py plus 10a plus minus 2m. We're being asked to calculate the elasticities. First of all, we'll be given the individual prices. Price of good X is 2 kwacha. Price of good Y is 3 kwacha. Advertising, 1 kwacha. And maybe income is 10 kwacha. So first help me by substituting the figures in there so that we find the sales. Quantity of good X. Substitute the figures in there. What are we finding? Those calculators. Let me find the total. Okay, you're calculating. What are you finding?
I found -1.
What are you found?
I found -1. I don't know if it's time to be corrected.
-1. Advertising, maybe put a 2. Sorry. So let's say this is 10 minus 10 plus 9 plus 20 minus 20. So our sales figure will be what? 9. All together so far?
Yes.
Then to find the elasticity, price elasticity of demand, PED, it is simply the gradient for good X times the price for good X over our sales value for good X. So now we have 3 gradients here. The gradient for good X is -5. The gradient to good Y is +3. The gradient for advertising is +10. The gradient for income is -2. Now, before I go into the calculation of this, we must firstly understand the 3 key things I've mentioned. Let's do a quick, can you remember? When we're dealing with price elasticity of demand, we are looking for 3 key interpretations. Can somebody remind me if the elasticity of demand is greater than 1? If the elasticity of demand is less than 1, what we call it? If the elasticity of demand is equal to 1, what terms do we use? First part, if it's greater than 1, it will be what? Elastic.
Elastic.
If it's equal to, if it's less than 1?
Inelastic.
Elastic. And if it's equal to 1?
Unit elastic.
Unit elastic. Are we together? Then cross price elasticity of demand, it looks at elasticity to do with 2 different goods. So if cross price elasticity between good X and good Y is a positive, so meaning if it's greater than 0, what do we call that? If cross price elasticity of demand is greater than 0, what do we call it? If it's less than 0, what do we call it? If it's equal to 0, what do we call it? Greater than 0 means a positive. What type of good is it?
A substitute.
Good. If it's less than 0, what we call it? Meaning it's a negative.
Complementary.
Complement, correct. If it's equal to 0, what do we call it? It's absolutely unrelated. Okay. Then when we go to income elasticity of demand, we also have 3 key criteria. If income elasticity is less than 0, what do we call it? If income elasticity is greater than 0, what do we call it? If income elasticity is greater than 1, what do we call it? So less than 0, we call it what? Inferior, because it's a negative. If it's more than 0, what do we call it? A normal good. If it's more than 0, it's still a normal good. If it's more than 1, it's a normal good, but it's a luxury. Okay? This one is normal, but necessity. It's less than 1. This one is normal, but a luxury. It's a quick, can you remember? Are we together? So let's go back to this question here. So I need you to comment in terms of what I've just talked about. So what is the gradient for good X? The gradient for good X here is what? -5. What's the gradient for good Y? +3. What is the gradient for advertising? +10. What's the gradient for income? Negative what? -2. Are we together? So the gradient for good X is -5. The price for good X was given as what? +2 over our figure here we got 9. So what is negative 5 times 2? It is 10. 10 over 9, what are we getting? What is negative 10 over 9?
1.11.
Negative 1.11. What is our comment? Demand is what? Elastic, inelastic, or unique?
Elastic.
Elastic.
Correct. Okay, now let's go to cross price elasticity is crossing from good Y to good X. So the formula is the gradient for good Y times the price for good Y over the quantity for good X. So what is the gradient for good Y? Positive 3. The price for good Y is also positive 3 over the quantity is 9. So here we're going to get 9 over 9 positive. We're going to get positive 1. What is the comment here? Cross price elasticity.
It's still elastic.
Less than.
There's a word I'm looking for.
Unit elastic.
Not really. It's unit if it's price elasticity of demand, but for cross price, there are only two words. It's either
Then it's substitute.
good. It's either a substitute or it's a what? It's a complement. So how is it a substitute? Because all substitutes have a positive what? Elasticity cross price. Okay. All substitute goods have a positive cross price elasticity of demand. Are we together? So that is correct. Please don't forget these principles. They're very important. All right. Then we go to elasticity of income. So elasticity of income is the gradient for income times the actual income over the quantity. So can somebody tell me what's the gradient for the income here? What's the gradient for the income?
Positive income, that's negative 2.
Negative 2, good. And the actual income?
Which is 10?
10, yes. And the quantity? 9.
9.
So we have what? Negative 2. Then here we have 10 over 9. So here we have negative 20 over 9. What do we get? Are you there? Can you hear me?
We can get you.
Yes.
What are you
It's
getting?
negative 2.
Negative 2 point?
Negative
2,
2.
2.
What's the comment there? What type of good is it? What type of good is it? I can't hear you. Can you get me?
Yes.
What type of good is it?
Get you.
For income. Income, there are three options here. So that's an inferior good, it's a normal good. These are the two. So when this is an inferior good, if it's a negative, and this is a normal good if it's a positive. So in this case, we've gotten a negative, so it's an inferior good. If we had positive, it would be what? A normal good. Then advertising elasticity, percentage change, the gradient in advertising times the actual advertising over. So here we have a gradient for advertising 10 times 2 over 9. 10 times 2 over 9. So here we're going to get positive what? 2.22. So it's elastic. It means it is very sensitive. Once we advertise, people respond positively. So let's go to an exam paper. We'll see how the questions come. This was a 2019 paper. So we're going to look at elasticity. I think it came in this question, last question. So here we're told the firm has established the demand function as follows. So now, one thing that you also need to understand in analysis before you even go through the computation is as follows. These are just hints that I'll give you. So this is the product of good X. So when we're dealing with good on X, that's on price elasticity. So this is good X. So X on X, that is on price elasticity. X on Y, that is cross price elasticity. X on M, that is income elasticity. And X on A, that is what? Advertising elasticity. So we have two products, good X and good Y. If the signs are the same, just know that these ones are complementing each other. If there's negative here and positive here, they are opposing each other. They are called substitutes. In this case, I can tell clearly that these are complementary goods. Then on the advertising, mainly on the income. If income has a positive slope here, we know that the income that has a positive gradient has a what? Has elasticity, which is a positive. And positive income elasticity denotes that the type of good is a normal good. So this is a 20-mark question. So you need to analyze it like that. So let's start. We're told that the PX, the price of good X, PY, the price of the related good, M is the income, A is the advertising. So we're asked to calculate the on price elasticity given that price of X is 10, price of Y is 4, income is 20,000, and advertising is 250. So we also need to state whether it is elastic, inelastic, or unitary. So like I taught you, let's go to business. So we substitute the figures there, right? So where there is a PX, we put what? 10. Where there is a PY, we put what?
Put 4.
Put 4, excellent. Where there is M, we put what?
20,000.
1,000.
Correct. And where there is A, we put what?
250.
Can you help me compute that? We get the figure.
20,553.
Come again?
20,553.
553. Confirm? Are we all agreeing? So this is 500 and this is 20,000. So 20,500. So we compute this. This is 5 minus 20. 5 minus 10. This is 10. It's 5. Then 25. Are we all getting this? I need us to move together. I hope you have your calculators. 50,553. I don't know why this figure is looking a little bit odd to me. It's not.
I have 20,488.
Yeah, this one is what I remember.
Yeah.
So 20,488, correct. This is our Q. So who wants to try part A, 6 marks, on price elasticity? What's the formula for on price elasticity? Same as price elasticity of demand, yes? Who wants to try? The gradient for good X times what? Price of what? Good X over quantity of X. So what is the gradient for good X?
Negative 0.5.
0.5.
Negative 0.5.
Good. And the price for good X?
It's 10.
10, correct. And quantity of good X?
20,480.
Correct. And when you compute that, what are we getting? Please hurry. Negative 0. What? So this is negative 5 over 20,488. I'm sure some of the calculators are showing you index numbers. That's mod. So this is negative 0.123 and 244. So what is the comment on this one? Mind you, this is current 6 marks, so my people perish because of lack of knowledge. It's a concept. So this is inelastic. Because it's less than 1. Are we together?
Yes.
Then let's go to cross price elasticity. Let's go to cross price elasticity. Cross price elasticity is looking at what? Crossing between two goods, X and Y. So this is X ED. What's the formula? Gradient for good Y times the price for good Y over quantity of good X. What is the gradient for good Y?
Negative 2.5.
Negative 2.5.
What's the price of good wine?
It's $4.
$4 over 20.8. So 2.5 times 4 negative, that's negative 10 divided by 20.8, which is negative 0.123, then 488. Will somebody comment? What type of good is this? What type of good is this?
It's a complementary.
Yes. It's a complementary good. So why is the complementary good?
Because it has got a negative.
Okay, because there's a negative, correct. That's a complementary good. So now we go to our income elasticity. So who can give me the formula for income elasticity? Income elasticity of demand. Income can be denoted by the letters M, Y, or I. Can use income elasticity of demand. Can use income elasticity of demand. It's okay. It's a gradient for the income. Because we're dealing with M. Then the actual income over quantity of what? X. So what is the gradient for the income in this case? Is 1, right? Positive 1. If there's no number, we know there's a 1 there. And what was the actual income? 20,000.
20,000.
And QX was what? 2488. So in this case, we're just dividing 20,000 divided by 2488. So here we're going to get positive 0.976. It's a positive. What's the comment we're getting here? What type of good is this?
It's a normal good.
Excellent. It's a normal good. Why? Because it's what? Positive.
It's positive.
It's a necessity. It's a normal good. It's inelastic. All right. And lastly, we go to what? Advertising. So advertising elasticity of demand measures the strength of our advertising budget. If it's more than 1, our advertising budget is very strong. So here's a gradient for advertising times what? Actual advertising over the quantity of X. So what is the gradient for advertising in this case?
2.
2, excellent. And the actual advertising? 250 over what? Our sales value. So this will give us 500 divided by 2488. So here we're going to get 0.0244. So in this case, we can tell that advertising is what? Inelastic. All right. Advertising is inelastic. So of course, I have not asked us to comment, but what can you tell me about the advertising elasticity? means there is a very small impact, very limited effect that advertising has on consumer behavior. So in a very competitive market, it is very ineffective to advertise. So this is how the 20 marks are supposed to be gotten here. So we have 6 plus 6, 12, plus 6, 18, plus 2, 20. And you fail to get this seriously.
From here, no.